When you're out in the wild and unexpectedly you realize you have to stay here for the night, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe more. So now you have to find a way to effectively make shelter. You have to find a way to get yourself out of the elements. You have to find a way to keep yourself alive, and part of that is shelter. So now you have to think of what you'd be using, where you would stay, what you're looking for to have that shelter. You need to think like home. What does your home offer you? Shelters are going to be that thing that keeps you from the boogeyman at night. You need to not panic. You need to work. You need to do something. You can't just sit there, because that'll get you nowhere. So as you hike around looking for where you're going to go and what you're going to do, first thing is stay put. Because if someone at home knows your location, they might send rescue out that way. So if you left your location at home, you need to stay at the nearest location to your last known location. So it's time to hunker down and find a good spot to stay. And here in this intro to shelter making, I'm going to explain to you the variables, what you're going to look for, what you're going to need, what you're going to avoid. So let's stop, take a moment, and talk about what it takes to make a shelter, tips and avoidances. Alright, so this video is going to be about shelter. It's going to introduce you to shelter making. In this intro, I'm not necessarily going to make a shelter. The next video is going to start the shelter making. This one's going to talk about the tips to making a shelter, what you're looking for, land features, avoidances. You need to be looking for those things, or you could end up hurting yourself even more. Before I start, I want to mention the shirt I'm wearing. This is going to be the logo for my survival school, Fear Not Survival School. Okay, I just thought I'd show that to you. I'm going to be launching the website and everything here pretty soon. I wanted to see what everyone thought about the logo, if they like it. My wife designed it and everything, and I thought it was pretty cool. I chose Fear Not because I believe the duty of an instructor is to teach people not just to survive, but to fear not the wilderness. I want people to be able to go out and camp and explore and see and do like I do, because I enjoy this. I enjoy the outdoors, and I want people to be able to say, I fear not when they go outside, because a lot of people are afraid of the outdoors and the woods, and I don't want that. So it's not only for survival, but it's also for bushcraft and enjoyment of camping and hiking. So that is what fear not means. I got it from the Bible. The Bible says fear not 365 times, which is one for each day of the year. So I figured it was appropriate for survival school. So I'll be based here in Tennessee. I plan on doing classes in Florida and in Michigan as well. So keep your eyes open for that, and I'll keep posting more on that. You'll be seeing a lot more of it. I'll get that website up there as soon as I can. I'll have different blogs on there of all the categories you can think of. I'm going to keep posting as much as I can, and we'll go from there. But I wanted to share that real quick before we dove into this video. Alright, there's a few things you want to be focused on while building a shelter. And the first thing you want to think about is land features. Okay, does the area you're in offer the resources you need to build this shelter? Does it have fuel to burn, to cook, to heat? Does it have water? Because you're going to need water. You don't want to be hiking a mile away from your shelter just to get water. So water's a plus. Is it high up off the ground, this area you're in? Is it dry? Is it thick or is it open? Okay, so you need to be focused on these things at all times. The moment you become in a survival situation, your mind is going to focus on all these elements. Okay, you're going to be looking constantly for food. When you're building a shelter, you're looking for food, you're looking for water. When you're looking for water, you're looking for things to improve your shelter, you're looking for food again. and then vice versa. You're looking for all these elements together. What's going to help you with fire making? What's going to help you as a trail nibble? Anything you can find along the way, you want to be looking for it. Okay, now anything to improve your situation is only going to help you. Now let's look at, what does a shelter offer? Okay, one thing it's going to do is boost your morale. You're going to feel accomplished because you did something. You didn't just sit there and get pelted by the elements. Okay, it's really going to boost you. Just like as if you were to make a fire. That first time you make primitive fire, you get a little smile on your face because you did something. You feel accomplished. That's what you want out of this. You want something that's going to make you feel like, hey, I'm going to be able to get out of this. I can do this. I'm going to fight. I'm going to give it everything I've got. And if you do that, you're going to be fine. That's why all instructors around the world say it's 90% mental and only 10% physical. Because your mind can destroy you or make you. This shelter is also going to offer you a way to stay out of the elements. Okay, rain, snow, heat, wind, cold, whatever the case may be. Okay? It's going to protect you from that. And it's going to vary from place to place off of what resources are available, how you can protect yourself, how long you're going to stay there, what elements are in that area. You need to be focused on that as well. Okay, now shelter's also going to help keep water inside of you. Okay, once you have a shelter, it's going to keep you out of those elements, which is going to essentially keep water in your body. You're not going to be burning up as much water, because shelters, 90% of your elements can rip water right from your body. Wind, through convection, is going to take water from your body. Okay, heat, radiation, going to take water from your body. Okay, you lay on the ground, it's going to suck all that moisture from your body. Everything you touch and do is going to suck moisture from your body. That shelter's only going to make it that much better. Now, a shelter's also going to keep you protected from what goes bump in the night. Alright, I've stayed in the bush in Florida, in the middle of the swamp by myself. I've stayed in Tennessee. I've stayed in Michigan. These places can be creepy at night, especially when you're alone. Now, everyone knows when you have someone with you, you're not as scared. You want to be tough and you want to be, you know, the hero. But it doesn't matter in a survival situation. You still need the shelter because there's still predators, animals that can hurt you, insects, bugs. All these things play a factor. You know, you don't want a snake crawling in with you at night, so how are you going to avoid that? You don't want a bear coming in your camp at night. How are you going to avoid that? You need to be thinking of those things. Shelter's going to protect you from that. So be focused on that. Be focused on camp security, as you could call it. You need to have some type of security, some type of protection from these elements. This is another element. Animal protection, insect, reptile, whatever the case may be. You want to be protected from these elements. Alright? Another thing you want to be focused on is keep it small. Okay, if you want to heat your body up, you need to focus on keeping this shelter small. Okay, you're not building a mansion. Yes, you're going to focus on my website, you'll read it when I launch it. I wrote a blog about this. You focus on keeping things to a minimal. Okay, you're not out here making something that's going to last you, 8 months. You're making a quick shelter to keep you out of the elements. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be, economical. It's just got to work. It's just got to do what it needs to do for the time being. You don't want to be out here making every log even and every knot perfect or whatever. You want to just focus on, okay, I need to get this up, I need to get it done, and I need to get it done now. And you got to focus on your next task. Because one thing I've learned, especially in Michigan, because Michigan's where I've done a lot of my bushcraft and staying in the bush alone and trying to survive with just a knife, you have no time for what you see on TV. There's no time to build canoes and to build rafts and to do these things. You're going to only have time for food and water and shelter and fire. Okay? And hopefully something to signal to get you out of there, or a game plan to get out of there. Alright? You're not going to have the calories. The first day you're going to be so hungry, you're going to be miserable. Alright? You're not going to think about, building this fancy teepee or something like that. You're going to do whatever's easiest. So a natural shelter is obviously your best option because it's already built there. Nature left it there for you. Okay? So focus on small, focus on efficient, focus on quick, but make sure that it's going to protect you from whatever elements are in the area you're in, because this applies to the entire rotation. Alright, this is not just Tennessee, Michigan, and Florida. This is everywhere. Resources are different in those three areas and everywhere else, and that's something you're going to have to learn. Okay, I can teach you where I've been, but I can't teach you everywhere. But you can use these same principles all across the globe. Which direction do you want to face this shelter? Alright, you don't want to face this thing north, because you're going to be freezing. Alright, you want to face your shelter south. Why? Because when that sun rises in the morning, it's going to be in a southerly direction. Alright, if you face that shelter south, the morning sun's going to come up and it's going to heat you up, warm you up, dry you up. That's what you want, because most of the areas you're in, including Florida, everyone thinks it's always warm there. If you're in the winter in Florida, for some reason, when it's 40 degrees, it feels like 0 degrees. Alright, I've been colder in Florida than I ever have in Michigan, because you're not dressed as properly as you would be in Michigan, and it just catches you by surprise. You're in heat all day, and then it cools down at night, and those are the areas that'll kill you. It makes you sick, it messes with your immune system, it drains water and energy from your body, and you can get dragged down. So you want to do this, face the shelter south, because of that reason. You want to be warm and you want to be dry. If you're wet and you're cold, you're asking to end up dead. Okay? You don't want that. So that's an important factor. What about wind? Alright, where is the wind coming from? What direction does that wind come from? Okay, 90% of the wind in all situations is going to come from the west. So you don't want to face your shelter to the west. And if it's coming from the west, that means you want to either face it south, like we just talked about, or east. Okay, that's going to keep you away from the wind. If you have wind blowing at you, it's going to suck water out of you, and it's going to cause you to not sleep, and sleep is the most important thing, which is another reason to build a shelter. If you don't have sleep, your brain and your organs and everything's going to start to stop functioning correctly. You're going to get woozy and dizzy and disoriented, and then you're going to become more lost and you're going to make poor decisions. Okay? Sleep is very, very important. You need sleep or you will not make it out alive. Some other avoidances that you want to be aware of would be widowmakers. Look around. Is there any dead trees that look like they want to fall on you? Okay, like right behind me, let me show you. Okay, you see this dead tree right there? If you built your shelter right underneath that, that would make no sense, because what if that thing falls on you at night? You're dead. Okay, it's going to crush you. That's a widowmaker. So you need to be sure to avoid certain things like that. What's around you that can kill you? Is there going to be a mudslide? Are you in an area where there can be an avalanche? Okay, are you in an area like this basin right here? I want to show you. Same place as this widowmaker. Okay, this right here, I'm on a little bit of a ridge here. Okay, that's a little ridge line here, and a ridge line here, and here you can see water can run in there. You want to avoid that. If you put a shelter up in that and it rains, say especially in the mountain areas, if it rains a mile up there, that water is going to come rushing and surprise you in the middle of the night, and yes, it can kill you. It can just knock you out. You can drown in an inch of water. So you want to stay away from any areas that have a high water mark. You know, even if you were to stay on this right here, if there's signs of debris up there, then that's not a good place, because that means that's the high water mark. Okay, you want to go up here and keep in mind all them factors we just talked about. Okay, super thick areas are going to do you no good as well, because it's not going to let the sun get in to dry you up. Now, it's good to be in certain areas where you have maybe a barrier of thickness, because it's going to keep the wind off. Now, if the wind stays off you, that's a good thing. But you don't want to get into a place where it's hard to get in and out and it's hard to do anything. You don't want to be in a super thick bush where you got briars and things poking at you. If you're in a place where there's predators, then that might be the place for you. Like I said, each area is going to differentiate from the other because of these certain elements and scenarios you're going to be facing. So keep that in mind. Now each place, like I said, you want to be by water, and you want to avoid being too close to this water because that's going to cause mosquitoes. Those are not fun to sleep with when you don't have a mosquito tarp or anything to shelter you from those things. Now you also want to be able to build a fire near your shelter. Are you going to have a backstop, which is something you could layer logs, rocks, dirt, whatever, to reflect that heat back at you? Okay, you want that. You want to have a way to keep that heat as efficiently as possible in your shelter. Okay, and when I start building shelters, you'll understand that because I'm going to show you what that is. Alright, now another thing to avoid out here would be super tall trees. Are you in an area where lightning's going to strike that tallest tree? Because like I explained this in my weather video, 90% of your cases of people getting struck by lightning is being too close to a big tree and it traveling through the ground and into you, or being on wet ground. Okay, so you want to be off the wet ground on like a scree slope or something, gravel, pebbles, something that's not super compact like dirt and water. Okay, good conductors are not a good place for you. Okay, you need to be thinking about that as well. Lightning can kill. You know, the statistics when it comes to that go out the window when you're in this situation. 1 in a million. I've been in the middle of a storm in Florida. I had lightning striking all around me. I was by myself, had metal all over me. I stripped all that down and did the proper procedure, and I made it out. But I had lightning hitting within 100 yards of me, and it was one of the most humbling nights of my life. So lightning can be very intimidating in a place like this. That shelter's going to make you feel better, but it's not grounded like your home. So you need to remember, okay, where can I put this shelter to avoid that if lightning were to come? I don't want to be under a super tall tree. That is not the thing you want to do. You don't want to be super high off the ground. You don't want to be the tallest object in an area either. So find an area where there's taller trees away from you and you are in between. You don't want to be in the water because that's a conductor and that water can wash you away if it were to come. Okay, now let's talk about a few different things that you could add to your shelter. Okay, on a shelter you may have certain add-ons. Okay, think about your home. Again, I told you I wrote this blog called The Cabin in the Shelter on my website. You look at your cabin or your house. What does it offer you? Well, it offers you a place to go to the bathroom without having your feces all over your camp. Okay, so you need a place to go to the bathroom. You want to dig a hole 100 yards from your camp and safely dispose of it, putting dirt back in as you go. You don't want your feces contaminating water. You know, don't go by your water supply. And you also want to be thinking about, what can I add to this shelter to improve my situation? Well, my house offers me running water. How can I do that with a shelter? Well, you could build a roof. You can use bamboo, which I could show you at my house. I've got lots of bamboo and I might discuss that. Or you could use bark that has the same curvature as bamboo, which you would interlock like this and keep going along the way, alternating each one, and then that'll run that water off you into a gutter. You make a gutter with another one which runs into a catch plastic bag. You could dig a hole and put plastic in it. You could have your container, whatever you have to catch that water, even if you have to catch it in your cotton head wrap or your schmuck or whatever you got that catches moisture. That's what you're going to want. Okay, you need a way to make this shelter efficient, especially if you're going to be there for a while. Okay, so be thinking about those things. Moisture barriers, insulation, what elements you're going to be facing, so what else do you have to add to this shelter to make it better? And if you are not out of there in one day, each day improve that shelter. Be looking for things and thinking of things. Okay, well, my house offers me a place that keeps me off the ground, and it keeps the bugs out, and it keeps me warm because the heat stays in there. So think about things you could add to your shelter to do that for you. Now there's multiple types of shelters you can build. You can build A-frame, wigwams, teepees, root shelter, lean-tos, natural shelters. There's a multitude of shelters, even sapling shelters, which is native around here in Tennessee. The Cherokees and them used sapling shelters where you take saplings, stick them in the ground, and tie the two together at the top do the same with about 4 or so, and then you just roof it in. You know, they would lay deer hides and such over it to give them protection from the elements. So that's an option. There's multiple shelters, so each one's going to vary on your situation. You know, what time of year is it? What's the climate? What are you going to be facing? How fast do you need to build this? How long are you going to be staying? There's a bunch of questions you're going to have to ask yourself. Now, one important aspect before building a shelter is, should you stay or should you get out of there? Okay, so if you have to ask yourself that, first thing you need to do is, did you leave your location with anyone at home? Does anyone even know you're out there or that you're lost? If not, you're going to have to hike out of there. You got one day. Search and rescue is going to look for at least 24 hours, and then you might be on your own. So the first thing to usually do, survival code, stay put. Okay, 99% of the time, stay put. Hunker down, don't go any further. Look for an area in that area that's proper for shelter. Gives you what you need to survive that night. You know, you have 3 days without water, so that should be your first priority, is water. Food's not a necessity at this point. You want shelter, and you want water, and you want fire, and then food comes. Now that's a big question. A lot of people want to just go. They think, well, if I just keep going, I'll find the trail. If I just right around this corner is where I got to be. You might be wrong. Only if you know for certain, because then you might get yourself more lost and further from the last known location. Okay, so you need to have a signal ready. If you're in a super thick area, it's going to be hard to signal. If you're in an open area or have an area close to you that's open for signaling, that's ideal. Okay, have it ready. Okay, take boughs, spruce boughs, and stack them together in a tripod and light the bottom, and that'll send up a huge cloud of smoke. You know, if you have birch bark, that's going to send up black smoke. So that's even better yet. You know, you should always leave a game plan at home. You should always tell someone where you are, what you're going to be doing, how long you're going to be there. So if something were to happen, they could send search and rescue to that area because you left the game plan. If you didn't, then you might have to get out of there on your own. Then you have to find which direction you're going to head, which way's out of here. That's the only option you have. Okay, I believe that's a good intro to shelter making. You know, we're going to get into more depth as I go. I want to be building these shelters for you and show you exactly what you need to do to get yourself out of these elements and keep yourself protected. And I'm going to go over the various, I mentioned all the different types of shelters. We're going to go over the various shelters and how to build them, what it's going to offer you and why it's a good shelter for the area we're in or the time of year we're in, because you got to think summer and winter and fall and spring offer different elements, and that may vary around the globe. So we're going to end this here, and like I said, look out for the Fear Not Survival School. We're going to keep moving forward with that. I do appreciate the views and the comments everyone's leaving. It's been helpful and motivational, and I'm going to keep bringing you guys as much knowledge as I can. I feel like I've got some good, unique things, and I'm going to keep coming with the videos and with the blogs and certain things like that. If anyone has any questions or anything, just go ahead and ask. I love answering questions. I feel like, most of the time I'll have some type of answer, and if not, I will find the time to find that answer. So let's dive into shelter making next.